All right, welcome back to Forecasting with Friends. We have friends today.
Yeah, I'm meteorologist John Dawson, chief meteorologist Mike Itzkovitz.
And we have a very special guest coming up here in just a moment. We have Dr. Ryan Baer, who's going to tell us about this. I think it's an amazing project and data that's
and
together.
Huge, right?
Huge.
I mean, the size of the scope of this, I'm very impressed with.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it's a heat mapping campaign that was held over the weekend. So we're going to have all sorts of discussions about that in just a minute. But in the weather world, there's definitely an upgrade
a new development
to talk about.
Of course, not at all unsurprising. Ernesto is now the season's third hurricane. So this is what it looks like. It's been battering Puerto Rico for the morning. Actually brought them a lot of rain. The winds weren't crazy. They were getting like 40, 45 mile an hour wind gusts, but really it was very heavy rain. In fact, it's still pouring there in a lot of spots. Really sort of passed by the island of Hispaniola. The Virgin Islands got hit pretty hard around St. Croix, had some wind gusts this morning of about 48 miles per hour I saw. The sun is coming out over in places like Antigua, Guadalupe. Those spots had some really nasty weather yesterday. But here is the latest data that was released at 10 a.m. from the National Hurricane Center with Ernesto now estimated to have wind speeds, maximum sustained winds of about 75 miles per hour. And it hasn't slowed down at all. So it's moving to the northwest between about 15 and 20 miles an hour. It's going to maintain that for a little while here. It is going to stay off the east coast of the United States. So its main concern here, the main area that needs to prepare for this, is the island of Bermuda, because they may get a visit from the storm as a major hurricane. Might be a big one by the time it makes it over there. And then beyond that, in about 5 days from now, very commonly these things will skirt by the Canadian maritime provinces over there around Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. They'll get some wind from it. But overall, this is not going to be a Houston storm, thank goodness. And the other crazy thing is, I don't see anything coming behind it, at least not in the short term.
Right.
Yeah,
I kept waiting for that next wave or that next storm to kind of roll off of the coast, and it's not.
It's nothing, no. So we may make it to the end of August with not that much going on, which means that you would assume probably September is going to get super busy, maybe October. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for right now, no urgent threats for our area other than the heat.
Yeah, and this is interesting timing with this campaign that we talked about that was happening over the weekend, and because we had such a mild July, right? And then we just get right into August, and it's like full blast. We're making up for July, and we're doing the heat thing for sure, along with our August. So let's jump right into our discussion, and we've got his interview here with Dr. Baer is going to be joining us. Dr. Baer, thanks for joining us on Forecasting with Friends. You are with the Houston Advanced Research Center, and that is probably your full-time job, but over the weekend you were certainly involved in a big campaign, a big project. Let me just turn it over to you. Give us a short introduction to tell us more about yourself, and then a little bit about this project that took place over the weekend.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me this morning. So I am Dr. Ryan Baer. I'm a Nature-Based Solutions Program Manager at HART. So I really focus on bringing nature-based solutions to the forefront. And this heat mapping campaign that we had this weekend is actually part of that. So I do want to say this project was made possible thanks to funding from the USDA Forest Service through their Community and Urban Forestry program. So really what went down this weekend was a large-scale effort to map the distribution of heat throughout city, as well as some parts of the surrounding Harris County too. So this was really a campaign that was driven by volunteer support here. So we had about 120 volunteers, different community members, as well as some of the partners that we were collaborating with on this part of the project come out on Saturday and really be willing to map the heat. So a little bit about what that looks like. Is that each one of those participants or community members are equipped with actually an instrument. And that instrument is just mounted on a car. And each one of those cars and drivers actually then go out and navigate different predetermined routes throughout the city. So while they're out driving around, they're actually actively collecting temperature as well as relative humidity. And then that data is going to be supplied up to one of our partners on this event, Kappa Strategies, to turn it into some usable information so that we can better understand some of the areas throughout the city where we are seeing excessive heat.
Dr. Bear, I think everybody watching probably just naturally knows or might even take for granted that when you walk outside on a sunny day, if you're barefoot, you know that concrete gets very, very hot. And you know that if you want to escape that, you could step on the grass and you're not going to burn your feet on the grass. So I would assume that urbanization, is probably going to play into a lot of what you're studying, right? That there are certain parts of town that are going to naturally be hotter, which has an effect on a lot of things, people and electricity usage and all kind of stuff. It might cost more people more money because they live in a hotter part of the city. What are some of the pieces of data that you think you're going to be able to put together?
Right, so that's absolutely the case. And within the city of Houston, we have what is known as the urban heat island effect. So that's really an increase in temperature as you get closer into the downtown areas of the city, or really other parts of the city that's highly developed with dense urban buildings and a lot of pavement and other dark surfaces that really capture and hold a lot of that heat for a longer period of time. So we can point to some of the results from our previous campaign that was held back in 2020. And that campaign actually found a 17-degree difference in the temperatures between some of our communities like Gulfton, Alief, and some of the other communities to the southwestern portions of town compared to neighborhoods that had a higher level of green space and tree canopy coverage. So that's just one of the things that we're looking for here is really to give us some street by street level information that we can then use to not only assess the urban heat island at large, but identify these very localized hotspots of heat.
All right, I'm going to jump in and ask a question, and again, it's okay if we miss somebody, but it's my understanding that this is focused on Harris County, right? Is that primarily the region we were talking about?
Yes, it's Harris County, and a good portion of the city of Houston included that as well.
Sure. So tell us a little bit. I looked at the list of partners, and I might even have a list listed here. But there's a bunch of people who are involved in this. So if you could name a few of those folks, and maybe how they got connected to it, as far as the larger entities that are really brought into this.
Absolutely. So we did have a partnership, and that was really a strength of this initiative. Many of those partners are local government, actually. So we have been directly coordinating with the Harris County Public Health Department, as well as some of the different precincts within the county, too. So Precinct 4 was highly involved with this event and helped us to increase the amount of area that we could cover as well. So those are just a couple of the partners, but we've also been working closely with the city of Houston. So they have been involved through the previous campaign as well. And then there's also some other entities that are involved in this process too. So Kappa Strategies is the organization. They're a climate adaptation planning firm, and they help to provide the actual instruments. They make sure that all of the volunteers have the route designs and know where to be and when. So they participated through a high level of coordination, but really this initiative came together through the Houston Heat Action Team. And that team is comprised of a lot of those nonprofit partners that we're working with, including Student Conservation Association, as well as some of the county and city agencies and entities that I mentioned as well.
So what was the factors that went into determining the routes? Because obviously you're not going to be, even with 120 volunteers, you're not going to be able to cover the entire county. And maybe you're focused on certain areas more than others anyway. So what was the factors that determined where you were going to send your volunteers?
Right. So a big part of that puzzle is determining where some of these more underserved communities are located within the city. So that was kind of our initial limiting factor, that we really wanted to focus on the spaces, that have a high likelihood of risk when it comes to heat and health exposure as part of that as well. So those are the primary areas that we focused on. And actually with the routes, how that is broken out is that each route is driven 3 times within a single day. So there's a morning route, afternoon, and then evening to really give us the best representation and coverage of what the temperature looks like throughout an entire day as well. So it really is an impressive effort here, as you kind of hinted at, to the scale of this. But just to give you a little bit of insight of as far as the distance that was traveled here, all of those volunteers covered a total of about 3,400 miles. And that is enough to get you from the East Coast, starting in Portland, Maine, all the way over to the West Coast to Portland, Oregon, and a little bit towards the way back on that too. So it was really quite the showing with a high amount of coverage. But yes, many of those routes were selected to be focused in on some of the areas that do have a higher level of risk that we would like to focus on for some of the solutions that are going to come after this campaign.
Yeah, Dr. Beryl, we had some pictures that we were showing a few minutes ago about the event that took place this weekend. I'm going to ask that we can roll those pictures again while we keep this conversation, because I feel like now we've got a little bit of a better idea of what was happening, so we can kind of look at these pictures while we finish again while we're discussing.
Yeah, okay, so once all the data is processed, and I think we know kind of like the results that you got from the 2020 study are of course going to show that areas with I would assume less foliage and more concrete are going to be significantly hotter than more wooded or canopied areas. What actually gets put into motion based on that data? Like, what would you most like to see? Is it a matter of planting more trees? Is it other solutions that maybe don't involve planting trees that could reflect some of the heat back and take some of the heat burden off of some of these areas? What could be done once all this data is gathered?
Exactly. So there are, a various array of different cooling solutions that can help to mitigate some of this high heat levels that we're seeing across the city. From my perspective, one of the things that we are most interested in is doing some additional tree planting. So that'll be actually something that's coming about then as a follow-up to this. We are an applied research organization, so we really want to bring that science to action. And what we're looking at doing then through this larger Forest Trees project is working with many of the same partners that participated in the community heat mapping campaign, as well as community members themselves, to incorporate this heat data into the planning for where those tree planting events are going to be occurring on the ground. So that's going to include everything from planting additional trees along roadways and within esplanades to also increasing the amount of green space and access to parks in some of these areas of town that we did find, the highest levels of heat there as well. So that'll be a big part of it. But, some of our other partners like Harris County Public Health, as well as the city and some of the county precincts there as well, have some other cooling solutions available. So, they have cooling centers, usually at libraries or local community centers. That are spread throughout the city and county for people to access, AC on these particularly hot days as well. So that's a big part of the solution, and just provides an opportunity for people to cool off and get some relief from the heat. But there's also some other things that we'd be considering, like cool pavement. So as we talked about, some of that concrete and pavement and parking lots really hold and trap a lot of heat. But cool pavement really reflects that heat up and off the ground to help cool those spaces and not capture it at the level where we all typically kind of experience and interact with that heat there as well. So there's really a gambit of solutions there that'll be coming together and be considered as part of the solutions.
One of the things we try to do here, Dr. Bear, at Fox 26 is we're always efforting to try to get this really kind of high resolution, like weather where you live kind of thing. But really, all meteorology is limited to your data points. Some places are more data sparse. Some spots you have a little bit more data. Then there's always the reliability of the data. Is that really a good temperature reading or not? Are there any plans to maybe put some permanent temperature sensors in some of these locations rather than taking a sample of it all at one time?
So there are some alternatives in terms of the data, like land surface temperature data and things like that can give you more of that overarching impression, throughout the year. For example, we currently do not have plans to install new monitoring equipment, but that is something that could be considered here, and this data would help to potentially inform where we might want to install those additional monitoring or sites to collect air temperature and other meteorological data as well.
Because yeah, JD, whenever like we give the temperature from, let's say it's Hobby Airport or Hooks Airport, whatever it is, and those are taken 6 feet above the ground over a grassy surface in the shade, that kind of thing.
It's not real life.
Yeah, it's not real life.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's really not real life.
Hey, I was going to give the website, Dr. Bear, that where we can get people, because I was told that basically all of this information is going to be made to the public once you received all the data and everything. And so help me figure out how to share this website. It's the H and then the letter 3 and then AT, right? .org.
.org, exactly. Yeah, anybody can reference that website. It's a great place to access different resources talking about the heat. Health issues, and also that's where we're going to be posting and sharing, the results from the campaign a little bit later on this year.
So it's like heat,
yeah,
but with a 3 for the E.
Right. It's like the word heat, but there's a number 3, the numeral 3.
Yeah, they do that in movie titles and in like rock band names. They like to do that.
So it's H3AT.org.
All right. That's great. That's great work. Hey, one thing I wanted to mention too, this is a bit of trivia about the doctor.
Okay.
Because I read your bio. The only person I've ever met who went to 3 different Texas A&M campuses.
Oh, way to go.
Yeah.
The
So
trifecta.
the trifecta of Corpus Christi, Galveston, and College Station. I've never met anybody who's done that.
Yeah, I really got the full tour in there.
That's very cool.
That's fantastic.
That's very
good
cool
stuff.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. I know your time is valuable, and we appreciate it very much, and we really look forward to getting all the final data on this. Terrific.
Absolutely. We'll be sharing much more about that here in the coming months as well. So thank you again.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Bear.
3 Texas A&M campuses.
Yeah, we're making the tour, right? Way to go.
That's very cool stuff. 2 islands. 2 islands, and then an urban heat island.
A huge
and then,
campus.
And then the country.
All right. Hey, that's going to do it for right now for this segment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Beryl's impact specifically on the farming community. Tom Ziska will be bringing us a report. We'll be right back.
Fox 26 is The Fox 26 YouTube page. Like and subscribe today.
All right, hey, welcome back. We got a great story. Tom Ziska, a lot of times hears from these farmers,
Yep.
you know, out in the fields. When we've had floods and droughts, we hear from the cotton farmers and so forth. But now some info on Beryl.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is our season, I think the farming season was going really well, and then Beryl kind of comes and blows it with everything. So they're still recovering. It's been a month now, you know, since Beryl, and I know that they're still working to recover. And again, those farmers are doing the best they can. Here's business reporter Tom Ziska.
It blew most of the crops over. Some of it, a lot of it can be salvaged. I don't know what we lost yet, but probably the corn, we probably lost 20%. The cotton, I would say the same or more. And quality on everything is going to go down, so we get deducted on the price on quality. It's laid over, as you can see, and it's not going to stand back up. These plants are open a little more.
It's hard to see on camera, but that plant is tilted over about 45 degrees.
Right. And then the cotton that was open, how it's hard locked, it didn't fluff out, and some have already hit the ground. See it, they're just, they'll fall right out when it's supposed to be more like this, is a fresher bowl that open loss.
You could absolutely see which direction that storm's wind hit your fields.
Right. When it came back around, see, it might have blown it the other way first because we were in the center of the eye. This one looks good. For us, that's a nice ear of corn. Yeah. Myself, I'm kind of hoping we'll get at least 80% of what was originally there, you know, and hopefully we're not going to get deducted for quality issues, which it could happen. You know, we're just not completely sure yet until we get into it. Mother Nature's going to do what Mother Nature's going to do. You know, it's the game we play, I guess you would say.
Farmers will not know the full scope of their losses until they're able to salvage what they can and get those crops to market. But with market prices for corn, cotton, sorghum, just to name a few, already low, they needed a bumper crop to try to pay the bills. So with damaged crops and smaller yields, those economics will be difficult. In Fort Bend County, Texas, Tom Ziska, Fox 26 News.
But it's hard to be a farmer.
Oh gosh,
you know?
yeah.
It's always something. If you don't, you got the insects, you've got the heat, you've got drought, you've got rain, you've got hurricanes. There's always going to be something out there.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's a really, really interesting report. There's so much that happens outside of Houston in all of these farming communities, whether they're growing corn, you know, or sugarcane or rice or whatever it is. There's people that grow grass like sod.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to know a guy, well, I still know him, but his family has a big sod farm down in Matagorda County. They grow sod.
Yeah, and then they like roll it up when they
roll it up. Yeah. So, and that gets affected a lot. I'll have to ask them if the hurricanes affected the sod crop this year. I don't know, but there's some pretty good, it's good business.
Give us a live report out there.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe not. All right. Hey, coming up right after this, we'll take a look at a very hot forecast.
Fox 26 is The Fox 26 YouTube page. Like and subscribe today.
All right, welcome back to Forecasting with Friends. The heat is on. It's actually a very pretty looking day out there, but stepping outside, it might not feel too terrific. 11:26 a.m. here on the show, 91 degrees with a partly cloudy sky. You see that wind variable at 3, so just barely blowing around out there. Current feels like temperature in Houston of 102. Galveston heating up quickly, a variable wind at 6 miles per hour, 91 there. We have 86 in Angleton. There actually was a shower nearby. That's why they're a little bit cooler. Right now, Conroe checking in at 90. And look at the heat index values. Remember, we are under heat advisory today. 106 Sugar Land. See, Angleton's just jumped up there. 106 there, 104 for the feels like value there for Galveston. There's a little bit of rain showing up on the radar now, like I said, down around parts of Brazoria and Matagorda County. I want to zoom in and show you that. It's really nothing to worry too much about, but you see how there was that little shower that just passed by the airport there, the Brazoria County Airport, and then we have a few more that are over the sort of rural areas there just off to the east of Danbury and Liverpool, and then a few more popping up down here. Over the sod farms down in Matagorda County. Nothing too big. I mean, you probably will welcome the rain actually. This is the latest look at what is now Hurricane Ernesto. This one is going to be making its way off toward the northwest here. Current sustained winds about 75 miles per hour. It's going to pose a pretty big risk to Bermuda. And here's a quick look at your 7-day forecast, guys. About 98 or so today. Middle to upper 90s today. A 20% chance that you'll encounter a shower or thunderstorm for today. Very similar tomorrow, and then as we head toward the weekend and early next week, likely it'll get a little bit hotter. We'll have a good chance of hitting 100 each day. We'll see you for the news at noon.